The way that we do fundraising as this party, with a constant, unceasing barrage of texts and emails, is just inhuman. It remains inhuman, and it becomes impossible to us to say anything else because we're too busy asking for money. And the truth is, there are a small number of companies that are mostly responsible for this, and we need to kick them off ActBlue, and we need to make it so that we are able to actually talk and speak to each other again. It's through being better about fundraising that we can begin being the communitarian and human people that we need to be, because people talking to people is the only way to overcome Trumpian noise. I'm a reformer with the boldest plans in this race. We're going to stop the damn texts, which I'm sure have annoyed the crap out of all of us. We're going to have a subscription model to fund the party. I have high school and college plans that really go around with what we actually need. And I want to hire 10,000 permanent local organizers, one for every county and then one for every 50,000 of population. Beyond that, plans are at paulfordnc.com. 20 million people either give to Democratic candidates or vote in our low turnout primary. I don't want you to have to be a donor to feel like a Democrat, but I do want you to have to vote to feel like a Democrat. If you do either of those two things, that's about 20 million people. Those 20 million people, the communication they get from the Democratic Party for the most part is, give me money, and then occasionally towards the end, call strangers for me, knock on doors of strangers for me, and we have this relational organizing thing that we're interested in and we're growing towards, but it's not as important as our core bread and butter of how many doors can you knock, how many calls can you make, and then give me money, give me money, give me money.
Question that comes from Wendy Davis, a Georgia DNC member, and is very pertinent to Democrats in the South. Here it is. There are hundreds of counties across the South where GOP candidates routinely get 65 to 85% of the vote. What concrete steps are you going to take as chair to start closing that gap? Again, Mr. Paul, take it away.
So I love this question. This is my favorite question, because one of the major problems that we have where you start seeing those 65 to 85 margins is that no one is there showing up. No one knows a Democrat. No one knows a Democrat they like. And if you don't personally know a Democrat you like, you cannot possibly hope to win support from those people for Democrats. So I think that's the most important thing in super red areas, is you have to show up not about politics, because if you show up about politics, people already have their guard incredibly up. But if you show up about the things they care about unrelated to politics, and you start in February of the election year, not November, not September of that election year, then you can get to a point where, you know, people start to like you and think differently about you.
What would be the alternative to text messages?
Well, the alternative for fundraising for the constant barrage of text is moving to a subscription model. A lot of people, you know, pay for Netflix or Spotify or people are used to paying recurring fees. Well, if they're going to do recurring fees, one, in exchange for the recurring fees, the barrage has to stop. You sign up, the barrage gets turned off. That alone might get people to potentially want to subscribe. But the other thing is, okay, my goal is to have 10,000 organizers that are paid by the party. And then so they have a person that they know that they're partially paying for. Because now, when you give to Democrats, you're paying to buy TV at about a 75, 80% clip. That's what you're paying for. And you're oftentimes paying for TV ads you're not going to see because you live in Connecticut.
Early states, what is the best way for the party to organize the early states? And please name names.
Absolutely. So New Hampshire's going to go first because their state law says they're going to go first, and they're just going to do that no matter what we say. Let them go first. Let them go first in December. And then I want a month later staggered primaries, one a week in states that are mid-sized. My native Connecticut, Iowa, Mississippi, Oklahoma, so you can get in to the states that have small numbers of voters, but not so small that it's tiny, and then so that will give the whole country a chance to weigh in, Nevada also, weigh in a way that then allows for deliberation, because one of the major problems in our last primary process in 20 was Joe Biden won a race on Saturday and then was chosen without doubt on a Tuesday because that was the day after it, and there was no chance to have anything else happen. We want to stagger small primary states, because if we do that, we have an opportunity to be deliberative, but it can't just be the white states like Iowa and New Hampshire again. But again, New Hampshire is going to go first no matter what we do because of their state law. Sanctioning them doesn't work. We tried it. It didn't work. It's never going to work. Let them go first.
So, Mr. Paul, really quickly, so there should be no penalty for flouting the rules that the DNC sets for their calendar.
What possible penalty are we ever going to impose on them?
You would be the chair, sir.
No, so I strip away all of their delegates. They get no delegates. New Hampshire, as part of their economy and history of being the first primary, they don't care who gets sent to the convention for delegates. And the number of time delegates actually end up mattering is so small that trying to sanction them, the party in 8 tried to sanction Florida and Michigan, and we caved on that too to some degree in the end. Sanctioning doesn't work. We want to think it's going to work. It doesn't work. And in New Hampshire, it's certainly not going to work because they consider it to be their birthright. And they did it again. And did we seat their things? Yes, we did. We sat them again. And even if we didn't, they would have taken the penalty to prove how noble they are. Let them go in December.
Thank you, Mr. Paul. Thank you. Dr. I would like to start with Mr. Paul. What are the animating beliefs of the party? Give me a simple distillation of what it means to be a Democrat in 2025.
So, Democrats want everyone's lives to be better, and they do that by being communitarian. That is what it means to be a Democrat. We want everyone in the country's lives to be better, and if that means that we have to take some from the wealthiest, then we do that. If that means that we have to do public health measures to keep people safe, then we do that. If that means that we acknowledge the history in our country of people suffering under unfair systems, we do that. And if we do those things that happen to make everyone's lives better, then we have the ability to be Democrats and be proud of being Democrats. That's why I do this. I do this work. I've always done this work because I believe that when Democrats win, people's lives are better. I think the data bears that out. And I'm proud of that. And I don't think it's hard, and I don't think it's difficult. And I think sort of running around being afraid and acting like that's not true is a huge problem that we have, because there's been a lot of the stage of apologizing for we didn't do this and we didn't do that, and we didn't care about these people and we didn't care about those people. And I think that at least in our policies under President Biden, we cared about all of those people. If there are issues where people were unhappy with him, I understand that, particularly with respect to the Middle East. But generally, on the issues that we care about, Joe Biden did a really good job. That we are terrible at communicating that good job, that is a bigger problem that we have, and that's why I'm running in this race. But I don't think being a Democrat is hard. I love being a Democrat.
Well, I would say that I'm probably the Luddite of the group, which is kind of amazing because I don't know whether I'm the youngest candidate. I think I'm the youngest candidate, but I'm not certain, so I don't want to jump ahead. But what I will say is that what we need is community. And while I understand the desire to chase community online, because that's where people are going, I think a lot of times when you get there, what you're going to find is it's not what Democrats mean by community. And when I say that is a lot of it is just really kind of based in a certain level of meanness that inherently writes people off just by its presence. It doesn't even necessarily mean to, but just sort of you get a bunch of people together online and they're not as community minded as we might want them to be. And so for me, it's still going to be about finding a way to get people to engage together in human physical community while understanding we need to create those content platforms for the people who require that.
Thank you, Mr. Paul.
We also need someone who wants to run the ecosystem and not just the DNC. I understand how important the DNC is an institution, but our party is much bigger than the DNC. And if you're not willing to say that you want to lead all of it, then you're not well positioned to bring the change that we need. And I do think, unfortunately, too much of the time in this DNC race has been about DNC mechanics. DNC mechanics are important, you all are important, but thinking about how we're going to go out and engage in this fight, I think is a bit more important, and we've missed this. Winning is the job. allowing anyone or anything to get in the way is a failure to do the job. As a great Packer coach, Vince Lombardi, said, winning isn't everything, it's the only thing. So I got my start in Connecticut with Bill Curry's campaign for governor. Bill Curry told everyone that Governor Rowland was a crook. He was a crook. The media shrugged, we lost, and I never trusted you again. All my plans are necessary because everyone is tuned out the mainstream media. And when we do hear you, you only ask gotcha questions. 80% of the questions you asked tonight were, why are you terrible? So we have to go around you, whatever it costs. Read my plans, listen to my plans. We can only do this together.
Thank you, Mr. Paul. Ms. Williams.
You know,
don't shake your head like that. You've been on here for how long now? How long? This is embarrassing.
How did all of that shouting make you feel? And I ask that because, not because I disagree with them, not because I don't think climate change is important. I ask that because that shouting did not make me feel really good. And the reason that matters is because I think that is what a lot of people think our party is like. They will come in, they will disrupt, they will shout, they will scream, they will not listen, they will not hear us, they will not be respectful. And that when we let people scream over us, we look weak. And our problem is we trusted you all. Your job was to inform the American people about what was going on in this country. But instead of informing the American people about what's going on in this country, you asked the same kind of gotcha questions that I am so sick and tired of hearing from journalists in this country. Joe Biden did a good job as president. He got good things done. And none of you ever said it because you wanted to ask, what's wrong with Joe Biden today? What's wrong with Joe Biden today? What's wrong with Joe Biden today? And because the media didn't inform the American people about what was going on, it became impossible for us to get any message out. And because we couldn't get any message out, nobody knew what we did, and that's why we lost the damn election. It is your people's fault, and I'm sick of it. I'm sorry.